Till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. On the frail breast of this precarious earth, since her orbed sight in its breath-fastened house, opening in sympathy with happier stars, where life is not exposed to sorrowful change, remembered beauty death-claimed lids ignore, and wondered at this world of fragile forms, carried on canvas strips of shimmering time. The impunity of unborn mites was hers. Although she leaned to bear the human load, her walk kept still the measure of the gods. Earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass. Unsmeared with the dust of our mortal atmosphere, it still reflected heaven's spiritual joy. Almost they saw who lived within her light, her playmate in the sempiternal spheres, descended from its unattainable realms, in her attracting advent's luminous wake, the white fire dragon bird of endless bliss, drifting with burning wings above her days. Heaven's tranquil shield guarded the missioned child. Although she had accepted the burden of all the earth's misery, the influence of the origin was so strong that it could not change in her this constant peace, this wide understanding, this universal love that was making of her a messenger of the highest consciousness. A glowing orbit was her early term. Years like gold raiment of the gods that pass. Her youth sat throned in calm felicity. But joy cannot endure until the end. There is a darkness in terrestrial things that will not suffer long too glad a note. On her, too, closed the inescapable hand. The armed immortal bore the snare of time. The story of the earth is an ascent from darkness and unconsciousness to light and consciousness. This journey is, in spite of so many years, just at its beginning still. And only in front of us is the assurance of the light that will be. When we look back, we look at so much darkness, suffering, misery, that if we do not have the inner consciousness and its assurance of the future victory, truly we could say, as so many have said in the past, that to escape misery, we must get out of earth life. Now, Savitri has brought the promise and the certitude that light will prevail and that misery will go. So this promise we must base our certitude and also so on this promise we must base our certitude also and advance towards the luminous future. One dealt with her who meets the burdened great, a signer of the ordeal and the path, who chooses in this holocaust of the soul death, fall, and sorrow as the Spirit's goads, the dubious Godhead with his torch of pain lit up the chasm of the unfinished world and called her to fill with her vast self the abyss. August and pitiless in his calm outlook, heightening the Eternal's dreadful strategy, he measured the difficulty with the might and dug more deep the gulf that all must cross. Assailing her divinest elements, he made her heart kin to the striving human heart, and forced her strength to its appointed road. For this she had accepted mortal breath. To wrestle with the shadow she had come, and must confront the riddle of man's birth and life's brief struggle in dumb matter's night. Whether to bear with ignorance and death, or hew the ways of immortality, to win or lose the godlike game for man, was her soul's issue thrown with destiny's dice. But not to submit and suffer was she born. To lead, to deliver, was her glorious part. There, it is put exactly and clearly. It was like a problem to be solved, and she had the will and the capacity to solve it. She came remembering who she was, and with this remembrance, she faced the ordeal. This world of miseries, this world of death and suffering, must become a world of glorious light and of divine consciousness. Whatever the pain, whatever the ordeal, whatever the length of the trouble, she has come to win, and she brings with her the victory. Here was no fabric of terrestrial make, fit for a day's use by busy, careless powers. An image fluttering on the screen of fate, half animated for a passing show, or a castaway on the ocean of desire, flung to the eddies in a ruthless sport, and tossed along the gulfs of circumstance. A creature born to bend beneath the yoke, a chattel and a plaything of time's lords, or one more pawn who comes destined to be pushed one slow move forward on a measureless board in the chess play of the earth soul with doom. Such is the human figure drawn by time. This is the description of the usual human being and his powerlessness in front of circumstances. But this was not the case with Savitri, who came keeping conscious in herself the origin and the source from which she came. Men are accustomed to be pushed by circumstances and have only the force of desire or habit. And this force is powerless in front of the power of the true force, the governing force of the divine. A conscious frame was here, a self-born force. In this enigma of the dusk of God, this slow and strange, uneasy compromise of limiting nature with a limitless soul, where all must move between an ordered chance and an uncaring, blind necessity. Too high, the fire spiritual dare not blaze. If once it met the intense, original flame, an answering touch might shatter all measures made, and earth sink down with the weight of the infinite. This is a magnificent description of what will happen when the true power will manifest upon earth. She came to prepare earth with the new consciousness, the consciousness that will transform the life on earth to make it ready for a new creation. If read with the true understanding, this epic becomes prophetic and announces the events that are beginning to come upon earth. A jail is this immense material world. Across each road stands armed a stone-eyed law. At every gate the huge, dim sentinels pace. A gray tribunal of the ignorance, an inquisition of the priests of night, in judgment sit on the adventurer soul, and the dual tables and the karmic norm restrain the Titan in us and the God. Pain with its lash, joy with its silver bribe, guard the wheel's circling immobility. A bond is put on the high-climbing mind, a seal on the too large, wide-open heart. Death stays the journeying discoverer life. Thus is the throne of the inconscient safe, while the tardy coilings of the eons pass, and the animal browses in the sacred fence, and the gold hawk can cross the skies no more. This is a very pathetic description of the condition of the world. Each effort to pull it out from this condition meets at every step, every moment, this horrible resistance. Not only power is needed, but also endurance, self-sacrifice, and a patience that can face all ordeals. But one stood up and lit the limitless flame. Arraigned by the dark power that hates all bliss, in the dire court where life must pay for joy, sentenced by the mechanic justicer to the afflicting penalty of man's hopes, her head she bowed not to the stark decree, bearing her helpless heart to destiny's stroke. So bows and must the mind-born will in man, obedient to the statutes fixed of old, admitting without appeal the nether gods. In her, the superhuman cast its seed. Inapt to fold its mighty wings of dream, her spirit refused to hug the common soil, or, finding all life's golden meanings robbed, compound with earth, struck from the starry list, or quench with black despair the God-given light. Accustomed to the eternal and the true, her being conscious of its divine founts, asked not from mortal frailty pain's relief, patched not with failure, bargain, or compromise. It is only when there is the power to remain in constant contact with the Supreme Consciousness, beyond all these distortions and these black thoughts, that it is possible to maintain the truth and to keep up the hope and the conviction of a better life. The consciousness is there, the faith is there, the clear vision is there. There is only to bear and to last.